Guns, Grief, and Grassroots, How One Mother's Pain Sparked a Revolution. Welcome to the Black CEO Podcast, where we dive deep into the stories of individuals who are reshaping our world. Today, we're honored to share insights from an extraordinary woman who has turned personal tragedy into a force for positive change. I recently had the privilege of interviewing Veronica Howard, a remarkable individual whose story and mission will not only inspire you, but challenge you to rethink everything you thought you knew about gun violence prevention. Veronica Howard isn't just another activist. She's a force of nature, a mother who looked grief in the eye and said, "Not today." On Christmas Eve, 2011, Veronica's life took a turn that would set her on a path she never expected. It was the day her oldest son came by, and little did she know it would become the catalyst that ignited her relentless fight against gun violence. Now, I know what you're thinking. Gun violence, again, isn't this topic beaten to death? Well, buckle up, because Veronica's approach is about to flip everything you think you know on its head. Let's start with a sobering fact. African American males between 18 and 20 are disproportionately affected by this crisis. But here's where it gets interesting and where Veronica's work becomes truly revolutionary. As the local lead for Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America here in Cleveland, Ohio, Veronica isn't just another voice in the crowd. She's the conductor of an orchestra of change, orchestrating a symphony of action that's making waves in ways you wouldn't believe. Now, I can almost hear the skeptics among you. Another talk about gun violence? What's new? Well, my friends, prepare to have your minds blown, because Veronica's methods are as unconventional as they are effective. Imagine, if you will, a city where young men don't instinctively duck at the sound of a car backfiring. Picture communities where children play freely in parks without their parents scanning for potential threats. Envision a world where mothers don't hold their breath every time their sons step out the door. This isn't just a pipe dream. This is the world Veronica Howard is fighting to create. And by the end of this talk, I bet it's a world you'll be itching to help build. So, what's Veronica's secret sauce? It's not just one ingredient, but a complex recipe of passion, persistence, and a deep understanding of the community she serves. But perhaps most crucially, it's her ability to bring people together, to create coalitions where others see only division. Take, for example, her work with Together We Rise. This isn't just another organization with a catchy name. It's a movement, a collective of individuals who, like Veronica, refuse to accept the status quo. They understand that the issues facing our communities are as tangled as a bowl of spaghetti, complex, interconnected, and requiring a multifaceted approach. But Veronica's impact doesn't stop there. As a graduate of the Neighborhood Development Leadership Program, she's armed with the tools and knowledge to effect change at a systemic level. She understands that while immediate action is crucial, long-term sustainable change requires strategy, planning, and leadership. It's like playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Now, I can almost hear some of you thinking, that's all well and good, but what about results? What tangible impact is this work having? And that's a fair question. After all, we're not here to talk about problems. We're here to discuss solutions that work. Well, let me introduce you to the Howard Huskies. As the CEO of this organization, Veronica has created a platform that goes beyond just addressing gun violence. It's about creating opportunities, fostering community, and providing the support and resources that young people need to thrive. It's about showing our youth that there are alternatives to violence, that their lives have value, and that their futures are worth fighting for. But here's where it gets really interesting. Veronica's approach isn't just about programs and initiatives. It's about changing the narrative. It's about shifting the way we think about and approach gun violence prevention. Because let's face it, the old ways aren't working. We need new ideas, fresh perspectives, and innovative solutions. And that's exactly what Veronica brings to the table. She understands that effective gun violence prevention isn't just about stricter laws or more policing. It's about addressing the root causes. It's about economic opportunity, education, mental health support, and community investment. It's about creating an environment where violence isn't just discouraged, but becomes unthinkable. Now, I know some of you might be feeling a bit overwhelmed right now. You might be thinking, yeah, this is a huge problem. What can I, as an individual, possibly do to make a difference? And that's a natural reaction. The scale of the issue can feel paralyzing. But here's the thing. Change doesn't happen all at once. It happens step by step, action by action, person by person. And that's where you come in. Because while Veronica Howard's story is inspiring, it's not meant to be unique. It's meant to be a call to action, a reminder that each of us has the power to make a difference, that each of us can be a force for positive change in our communities. So let me ask you this. What's your Veronica Howard moment going to be? What's going to be the catalyst that spurs you into action? Because here's the truth. We don't all need to be CEOs or organization leaders to make a difference. Sometimes change starts with a conversation. Sometimes it starts with educating ourselves about the issues facing our communities. Sometimes it starts with simply showing up and saying, I'm here. How can I help? Now, I can almost hear some of you thinking, but I'm just one person. What impact can I really have? And to that, I say never underestimate the power of one committed individual. After all, every movement, every revolution, every significant change in history started with one person who decided to take a stand. Think about it. Veronica Howard didn't start out as the local lead for Moms Demand Action. She didn't wake up one day as the CEO of Howard's Huskies. She started as a mother, heartbroken and angry, who decided that enough was enough. She started as one person who refused to accept the status quo. And look at the impact she's having now. But here's the really exciting part. Imagine what could happen if each of us took even a fraction of that initiative. Imagine if each of us committed to making just one small change in our communities. The ripple effects would be enormous. We could create a tidal wave of positive change. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This all sounds great, but where do I start? What can I actually do? Well, I'm glad you asked, because while the problem of gun violence, especially among young African American males, might seem overwhelming, there are concrete steps each of us can take to make a difference. First, educate yourself. Learn about the issues facing your community. Understand the root causes of gun violence. Look into the programs and initiatives that are already making a difference. Knowledge is power, and the more we understand about the problem, the better equipped we'll be to address it. Second, get involved. Look for organizations in your area that are working on gun violence prevention. Attend community meetings. Volunteer your time. If you can't find an organization that resonates with you, consider starting your own initiative. Remember, Veronica Howard didn't wait for someone else to solve the problem. She stepped up and took action herself. Third, use your voice. Speak up about the issues that matter to you. Share information on social media. Write to your local representatives. Engage in conversations with friends, family, and colleagues. Sometimes change starts with simply breaking the silence and bringing important issues to light. Fourth, support the youth in your community. Mentor a young person. Volunteer at after-school programs. Support initiatives that provide opportunities for young people to thrive. Remember, prevention is always better than cure. And by investing in our youth, we're investing in a safer, more prosperous future for all of us. Fifth, and perhaps most importantly, don't give up. Change doesn't happen overnight. It's a long, often frustrating process. There will be setbacks. There will be moments when it feels like we're not making any progress. But remember Veronica Howard's story. Remember that persistent, dedicated action can and does make a difference. Now, let's circle back to something I mentioned earlier. Remember when I asked you to imagine a city where young men don't have to look over their shoulders, a community where the sound of fireworks doesn't induce panic, a world where mothers don't have to fear for their sons' lives every time they leave the house. That world isn't just a fantasy. It's a possibility. And it's a possibility that becomes more real with every person who decides to take action. But here's the thing, that world won't build itself. It requires each of us to step up, to take responsibility, to be the change we want to see in our communities. It requires us to have the courage to face uncomfortable truths, to have difficult conversations, to challenge the status quo. And yes, it can be scary. It can be overwhelming. There might be times when you feel like you're shouting into the void, like your efforts aren't making a difference. But I want you to remember something. Every major change in history started with a single step. Every movement began with one person deciding that enough was enough. So as we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a challenge. I want you to think about what your Veronica Howard moment could be. What's the issue in your community that lights a fire in your belly? What's the change you want to see in the world? And most importantly, what are you going to do about it? Because here's the truth. We are not powerless in the face of gun violence. We are not helpless against the forces that threaten our communities. We have the power to make a difference. We have the ability to create change, but that change starts with us. It starts with you. So I ask you, are you ready to step up? Are you ready to be the change your community needs? Are you ready to join the ranks of people like Veronica Howard, who refuse to accept the world as it is and instead work tirelessly to create the world as it should be? The choice is yours. The power is in your hands, and the time to act is now, because every day we wait, every moment we hesitate is another opportunity lost, another life potentially cut short, another community left to grapple with the devastating effects of gun violence. But together we can change that narrative. Together we can create a new story, a story of hope, of resilience, of communities coming together to protect their own. A story where gun violence is the exception, not the rule. A story where every young person, regardless of their race or background, has the opportunity to grow, to thrive, to reach their full potential. That's the story Veronica Howard is writing. And today, right now, you have the opportunity to pick up the pen and add your own chapter to that story. So, what will your chapter say? What legacy will you leave? What difference will you make? The floor is yours. The stage is set, and the world is waiting. It's time to take that first step. It's time to be the change. It's time to rise up and say, enough is enough. Because if not us, then who? If not now, then when? Remember, the power to change the world doesn't just lie in the hands of CEOs and leaders, it lies in the hands of every single one of us. So go out there, be inspired by Veronica Howard's story, and start making your own difference. The world is waiting for you. And who knows, maybe one day we'll be sharing your story on this very platform, inspiring the next generation of change makers, because that's how change happens. One person, one action, one day at a time. So as you leave here today, I want you to ask yourself, what's my Veronica Howard moment going to be? What's my first step towards making a difference? And then I want you to take that step, because the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And your journey towards creating a safer, more just world starts right here, right now. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Now go out there and make your mark. The world is waiting, and it's time for you to answer the call. Let's turn our pain into purpose, our grief into action, and our communities into beacons of hope. Together we can and we will make a difference. The time is now. Let's get to work.